Alright, so some news broke today, and usually with news like this, especially in terms of when it breaks in relation to the time of day, I wind up finding out about it later than what I would prefer, and that's just what happens when you got a day job. That can't be helped, it is what it is. But at the same time, it's really wild. I wound up getting the day off, and yet it's about to be 9:30 Mountain Time, and yet I'm just now getting to record a video talking about it. But, we're going to make the most of it. And that being said, Cody Rhodes and his wife Brandi have officially left All Elite Wrestling, and I gotta say, it's really, really interesting stuff. And I'm not all that surprised by the news at all. If nothing else, I'd probably be more inclined to say that maybe this was going to be happening one way or the other sooner or later. It just was a matter of, I guess, when, so to speak. And there are an awful lot of strange vibes about it that, for me, just given where I'm at as a wrestling fan, I guess, it just is a little bit awkward in a way because, let's be honest, Cody was pretty much the face of, the birth of All Elite Wrestling. I mean, they had the All In pay-per-view in Chicago a few years back, which was very, very successful. And, followed that up with the unveiling, the opening of All Elite Wrestling. He's there, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Adam Page, of course, Chris Jericho winds up showing up. And wildly enough, there are also talks about him potentially heading back to WWE at some point as well. So it's just really wild seeing how all of this is unfolding, as the days have been passing. But one thing I will say about it is that it is going to be very interesting to see where things go from here, especially now that you have one less executive vice president on the board. And Tony Khan has been pretty strong as in terms of the leadership role he has brought to the table. And of course, not everything that he has done has been something that I personally agree with or am a fan of. But at the same time, one thing that I've always enjoyed about AEW is just the energy that pretty much radiates from your TV screen or monitor or whatever it is that you're watching at that point in time. And for me, that's really, really significant because, over the past X amount of years of really just seeing nothing but largely WWE product on TV, really ever since they bought out WCW, which was 2001, 2002, pretty much. But all that being the case, there's just something to that really hasn't felt the way that it once did, and it's been getting less and less like that over time. And whether you want to look at it as the PG era thing or whether it was Cena or whatever it was, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot to it in terms of, I guess, offering something different than what you would like to have hoped for. I don't know. It's really hard for me to put all of that into words. But one thing I will say for certain is that it's definitely sent shockwaves throughout the wrestling world. That is an absolute definite on that one. And it's really going to get interesting because if Cody and Brandi do wind up going back to WWE, what is there to look forward to? A lot of people believe he'll probably be upper mid card, maybe find his way into the main event scene. Who knows? I mean, anything's possible at this point. And it's gonna be something to look forward to, provided that's what's actually in the cards. But it looks very strongly to be likely that that's what the move is going to be, is Cody and Brandi will be returning to WWE at some point, and probably in the coming days at that. So we'll see where that goes. But for me, I think, if nothing else, both sides in terms of WWE and AEW benefit from it one way or the other. I'm not going to say they benefit from it equally, because nothing's ever really that easy, especially in life in general, and forget about that being the case in the pro wrestling industry. But that being said, it's not such a bad thing that Cody's leaving. I mean, there's been issues between him and the other EVPs, again, Kenny and the Bucks, and it's kind of tough to really gauge what the relationship between Tony Khan and Cody has been like. And then there's also the matter of how everything's been treated in terms of Cody's relationship with the fans, or I guess how that's worked out on TV, more or less. I mean, they're booing him out the building pretty much a lot like how they would have done at one point with Cena. Probably still do in some cases. I mean, I guess it depends on where you're at. But to see this happen now is really, really intriguing, and I'm honestly looking forward to see what the end game winds up being from all of this. But if anybody thinks that AEW is going to suffer from this, that's where you're wrong about that. This could actually work as addition by subtraction, especially given said issues that I mentioned earlier. And to me, I feel like there's a plan that's been in place, and maybe on some level there was a bit of a hindrance to said plan. Not really going to speculate on who's to blame for that or who's responsible. All I know is that there was definitely a roadblock, and maybe this is where it's cleared. Who knows? I mean, it all really depends. We'll find out, especially with Dynamite airing tomorrow on TBS. And that's something else that I'm still getting used to, is Dynamite on TBS. But we'll see the residual effect. And it's real interesting also. I wanted to point this out. I'm currently watching the Clippers and Suns game on TNT. And they've actually promoted AEW television. And it's an advertisement that still has Cody Rhodes in the promo. So, I think they're probably going to need to get their editing teams on that more than anything else. But in the long run, I really more look forward to everything that's going to be forthcoming more than anything else, because, it's just, when one door closes, another one opens. That's been the way that I've looked at it. And I feel like that's where this is going to go for all parties involved. That being said, let me know what you guys think down below. Drop a comment. If you enjoy the content, like, share, and subscribe. And with that being said, I thank you for being here. Thanks for having me.